All right, welcome and welcome everybody. My name is Zach. I'm the owner of the Egoscue Seattle Clinic here. I've been doing this for, I've been in Seattle for 9 years, coming up on 10. But I got started in the Portland Clinic actually, where Laura is, but before that, kind of what got me into Egoscue was so in college, I studied exercise sciences. I was a personal trainer. I was exploring options with maybe going into physical therapy or something like that. Um, and I had a professor who introduced me to this method, and he had chronic back issues, and this had been a lifesaver for him. And so he was really excited about it. And when I first learned about it, it honestly just made sense. And I liked the approach of, we can heal our bodies naturally, right? Through simple movements and exercises, fixing our posture. So I thought, oh, this is all great and something that I can use maybe in my personal training business. But this is for old people, right? It's not, doesn't apply to me. I'm an invincible 20 something year old, right? Well, I guess turns out it's not just for older people. I started having some shoulder and back pain myself in grad school. So playing a lot of racquetball. And so then I thought, well, maybe I should give this Egoscue a try myself and see if it really works. And of course, it did. And I was able to keep playing racquetball and got me out of pain and kept me out of pain. So that's really what sold me on it. And so I got this training and found the job in Portland, worked there for a little bit, moved up to Seattle 9 years ago to open up my own practice here. And here we are. It's still something I incorporate into my daily routine. I've had my share of bumps and bruises along the way, and Egoscue's always helped me recover and keeps me active. And I don't play as much racquetball anymore, but I have taken up the pickleball addiction. So that's a reason for me to keep my body in good alignment too. So anyway, that's a little bit about me. Now, Laura, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello, thank you, Zach. I'm Laura, and I'm the owner of the Portland Egoscue Clinic, and I took that over from Martin and Kelly almost a year and a half ago now. And wonderful getting to know them, and wonderful opportunity now to continue serving the community that they served so well for over 20 years. And I'm in the travel clinic today, actually. So I had this clinic first in Cannon Beach on the coast. Prior to here, I am from Montreal in Quebec. So I've been in the fitness and wellness industry for over 30 years. My degree is a Bachelor of Education in Fitness and Exercise Science. So I've always loved everything about human movement. Like Zach, I've had my bumps and bruises as well, always been active. And I've had some good water ski falls and alpine skiing falls. Those are some of my favorite activities, along with hiking and biking. And just through that, I'm always trained and was physically active. But before I really understood about balancing the body and building symmetry in the body, like we do now in the Egoscue method, I had a chronic sore hip, which actually then prompted me hanging up my spinning shoes. I taught spinning for 15 years, and my hip was just in so much pain, and my lower back as well. And didn't understand back then how to decode that pain. And so that's what I love, honestly, about the Egoscue method. The site of our pain and discomfort isn't often the source of our pain. We're going to dive into that a little bit today. But I know now, so 20 years ago, I had met Brian Bradley at a fitness conference that we were both teaching at, and we got into a conversation. I started understanding a little bit more about the method, and then over time dove into it. And when I came to the States, I had the opportunity then to work more with the Egoscue method. And now be here in Portland and have the clinic there and in Cannon Beach, helping others improve their posture and reduce their pain to improve our performance, improving our performance in anything. That could be just day-to-day activities. I love walking in the morning with my 13-year-old now golden retriever. So our walks are a little slower than they used to be. But just being active, hiking and biking and enjoying life is something that is a lot more pleasurable when we're not afraid of the pain. And, I had a conversation with Pete Egoscue 2 weeks ago, and he said something to me that I've been sharing now with my clients in the clinic the last couple of weeks. And he said, it's important not to be afraid of the pain. Pain isn't something to fear, it's something to be understood. And so that's what I really appreciate also about this method is that the more symmetrical and balanced our body is, the better we function and the better we feel. And we all have deviations in our posture. Even the most elite athletes that I've worked with, we joke and we say we all have those issues in our tissues. And it's the muscles that move the bones, and we're going to see that. So, how do we re educate our muscles and recondition ourselves to bring us naturally back into balance so that it takes the stress and strains off of our structures? So, that's what I aspire to be doing every day. I'm on my slant board in the tower. And actually, Sonia mentioned in the chat about her migraines. And I just spoke to another one of our clinic owners, Sally from Atlanta, who had, let me use the word healed or helped her migraines using the tower. So I've been recommitting to that back in my tower every night the last 5 nights because that really helps unwind the hips and unwind the body to get more blood flow and circulation to those areas. So anyway, we'll dive all into this. So I'll let Zach take it back from here. Oops, you're on mute, my friend.
Whoops. Thanks. All right. I muted everyone, including myself. All right. So we're going to pull up a slideshow here. Make sure everyone can see this. All right. So just a real quick, I know there's some people that are probably brand new to this method. The Egoscue method, it comes from the founder's name, Pete Egoscue. It's his last name. And we won't test you on the spelling of it or the pronunciation, but that's okay. And basically, he just real quick, you can learn more about it on our website or any of his books. But he was basically an injured Vietnam vet, came back from the war, and had this lingering chronic pain in his hip that nobody could really help him with. All the Western medicine didn't have a solution for it other than drugs. And so he wasn't satisfied with that and decided to figure it out himself and basically picked up an anatomy book and saw what it showed in there, which is balanced body with the same muscles on our right and left sides and joints lining up proper positions. And he realized, well, my body doesn't look like that. I wonder what would happen if I, if I got my body looking more like that. And with some stuff that he learned through his, physical activity and marine training and yoga and physical therapy, basically came up with this way of straightening out our bodies, and realized it helped him feel better and got him out of pain. And so we started helping other people and just kind of grew from there. So didn't really have a formal medical training per se, but that was back in the 70s, and opened the first clinic in the early 80s in San Diego. And now we've got about 20 clinics across the country. So um, anyway, that's just some background. So, as Laura mentioned, we view pain differently than you probably hear from most doctors or pain specialists. And that is, we see it as just a warning, right? As a signal. It's not something to fear, like Pete said. It doesn't even necessarily mean that there's damage, just like the check engine light on our cars, it comes on as a warning that basically just means something's malfunctioning. It's not doing what it's supposed to. Um, the car still may be driving down the street just fine, and but if you ignore that light, then eventually, maybe something worse will happen or it will become more catastrophic. But um, so rather than just ignoring the light, ignoring the pain, or just trying to cover it up, taking medication but not fixing it, changing anything. Um, that's the equivalent of like maybe putting some tape over the light on your dash so you don't see it. It's still there, right? We want to properly diagnose it, right? We want to figure out, okay, well, what caused that light to come on in the first place? And that's what we're hoping to share with you today. give you some ideas to think about your pain a little differently. So, as you've probably got the gist of, we're all about posture and alignment here. So, it's a simple concept, but it makes sense. And this is what drew me to the method at first, which is our bodies are built to be a certain way, and when they're crooked, like this, just like this house, obviously it's not it's not very stable, right? It looks like any minute now it could topple over. All those walls are under a lot of stress, and um, yeah, probably don't want to go in there. So, and our bodies are the same way. We're built to be up on 2 feet, and we've got balance side to side, front to back. We'll talk about that in detail in a minute. But just those load bearing joints all need to be stacked up. And you can see how in this picture at the very bottom, things are shifting to the right, but by the time we get to the top, it's shifting to the left. So, there's for every action, there's a reaction, So, we're talking about necks today, which is kind of at the very top of our bodies. But our necks are affected by everything below it: our shoulders, our spine, the rest of our spine, our hips, our knees, our ankles, our feet, you know. So this is why we got to take a full body approach if we want to figure out what's causing that check engine light, the neck pain. So basically, the problem is our bodies are designed to move, right? If you think back to when you were a kid, we were all probably a lot more active than we are now. Even if we're relatively active and still play sports or work out, we're definitely not moving as much as we did as children. Crawling, jumping, climbing, you name it. So as we move less, our muscles don't get the range of motion they need, our joints don't get the range of motion they need, or at least enough of it, a variety of it. And so things start to get stiffer, muscles start to get weaker, or maybe we overuse some muscles because of repetitive movements we do day to day, our jobs, or our just general lack of activity. So that's what causes these muscles to be out of balance. And our muscles tell our bones what to do, right? That's what's holding us upright and straight. So if the muscles are not doing what they're supposed to, our posture is going to show it, which is why we look at posture. So fixing the problem, again, all these things are not bad. We're not anti-drug or anti-surgery. We don't want to give that impression. We're just pro fixing the problem. So we don't want to just cover it up or ignore it. Surgery is sometimes very necessary. If there's significant damage done or something that no longer can be just fixed through exercise, sometimes that's needed. But we always want to make sure that we're still going into the surgery and coming out of it with our bodies functioning as best we can, right? If we just, have a joint replacement or have a disc removed or trimmed up, but don't fix the reason why it wore out in the first place, then, most likely we're just going to have the same problem creep up again or in a different location. You know, Vacationing, relaxing is great. There's a lot to be said for just reducing your stress and how that'll impact your pain levels. But obviously, we can't just sit on a beach all the time, right? Life has to happen. Or we could just give up our sport, right? I could have just stopped playing racquetball, you know. Laura could just stop skiing, right? But what's the fun in that, right? We want to be able to enjoy life. And so rather than avoiding the pain, let's figure out how we can fix it for good so we can keep being active. That's what we want to do with all of you. All right. So, Laura, why don't you tell us a little bit about what we're looking for when we talk about posture and what that means?
Right. This is somebody you'll meet everywhere you go into our clinics, and we call him Mr. Freddie. So, Freddie Function or Function Freddie, we aspire to be a symmetrical posture like what we see here. There are no perfect postures. Not everybody has perfect symmetry like this, yet, the closer we can get to a symmetrical body, the better we function and the better we're going to feel. So we're looking at an 8 load joint design. So we have 2 shoulders, 2 hips, 2 knees, 2 ankles, and we're looking at the relationship between how these joints are working together or not. So if you look at your 2 shoulders in the mirror, are they level? Very simple question you can do for yourself as an evaluation. This is part of what we do in assessment when you come into the clinic every time is, all right, what's different with your shoulders? Is one higher than the other? Is one more rounded forward than the other? How are your scapulas positioned? How about your hips? Is one rotated forward more than the other, higher than the other? Sometimes we have a hip disparity where one part of the pelvis is rotated back and the other one is rotated forward, which then affects our gait and it affects how the shoulder is sitting. So, to Zach's point, if the hips are not rotating the same way, we're going to be overworking one shoulder. And, often if one side is tighter, I know that I've got right side tension from my lower back right up to my neck if I don't regularly do my menus and just keep going back into my old patterns. So I know that comes even from my hip and from my ankle. So we look at all of that. So look at yourself when you stand up. Are your feet pointing straight ahead? Do you have one foot that turns outward or inward more than the other, or both? Because that will affect the bones in your lower leg, your knee joints, your femurs. It's going to tilt your hips and then bring your spine into a more flexed or rounded position. And we're going to talk a little bit more about this after. I have a client case that I'd love to share with you, and it was amazing the results that he had just in the first session and his cervical herniations that he had. A lot of that strain and stress was due to his pelvic position. So we'll take a look at that. So we're really evaluating you at 90-degree angles. We can look at the side profile there as well. Do we have that one? Yeah. So when we take your photos, every visit you come in, we'll just update these photos to see what are the changes happening in your body. And that's our goal is that we're prescribing very targeted exercises based on what we see in your body. It's not random. So are you lined up from the ankle, the knee, the hip, the shoulder, and the ear? So when we take your front profile picture, just like we saw in Freddie on that front profile earlier, we see what's different. We draw lines on your body as well. So it's pretty fascinating to see. You always learn about your body every time. I know I do. And on the side profile, it's often different when we put our right side and our left side together to see how that gravity line, how it descends from the ear, the shoulder, the hip, the knee, and the ankle, and what deviates from that balanced posture. So then we know that muscles move our bones. We start to choose exercises that pull those bones back into position, and then the muscle is moved by the brain, by the nervous system. So a lot of repetition, daily movement of these prescribed exercises helps reprogram and recondition your muscles at the nervous system level. So next photo, and Zach's going to talk about a couple of these people here. These are your clients.
Yeah, so we just wanted to show some typical postural problems that can cause neck pain. Um, so this is just what it looks like on real people. So on the left here, we've got an elevated shoulder and hip. So if you look at, you know, his shoulders here, you can see how his left side is up higher. We can go down, as Laura was talking about, usually comes from below that at the pelvis. So we've got right pelvis higher than the left. So there's this cross pattern where left shoulder, right hip, they're trying to balance each other out basically. And then you can imagine how that affects the neck. So these muscles that run up from, the shoulder blade and below, lower in the spine up to the skull, there's going to be tighter on one side than the other, right? So you're walking around like that all the time, and it makes sense that why you would have some neck pain, right? Rounded shoulders, another one that's really common. If you look at the hands, this is an easy tell that your shoulders are out of position. When you're standing relaxed, your arms should rest at your sides. So, like on Freddie Function here, you see how his palms are facing inward towards his thighs. So it's really just the thumb and first finger that are visible. But this is how, especially if you're on a computer a lot, you'll probably see more knuckles showing from the front view, indicating that your arms are turned inward. You can see it from the side as well that, there's some space here behind the arm now because shoulders are forward. So now we're exposing part of the back. And again, it just changes all the tension in your neck muscles and the strain on your neck as a result. Um, Forward head. So this is probably the most common one, and a lot of people think of this. Makes sense when you're, that line is going down to the ankle and coming up from the shoulder. You can see how far forward his head is. You can even see the muscles on his neck straining just to keep the head up and keep the chin up. So I can never remember the exact numbers, but your head weighs a lot more, or there's a lot more torque, a lot more force on your neck the farther forward you bring it, right?
Hmm.
Like carrying a heavy bowling ball out in front of your neck, versus if it was stacked up straight, it would weigh a lot less strain on the discs, the ligaments, the spine itself, right?
Yeah, Zach, what I remember about that is that the head weighs 10 to 12 pounds. And if we see a lot of, we talked about this last month in our shoulder webinar too, of the amount of pressure that's put on the neck and the shoulders. So if we have 60 degrees of flexion forward, we see that as what we call tech neck now, with all the texting, the computering, the driving with the head forward. With 60 degrees of flexion of the head forward, that actually translates to 60 pounds of pressure on our cervical vertebrae and intervertebral discs.
Yikes.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So
Imagine.
shoulder, we'll talk about that some more of how to get the head back. And it's not about trying to pull the head back, it's repositioning the shoulder blades in the pelvis. That's the secret.
Yeah. So you can see on this a bit more full body picture. So along with that forward head usually comes, you guessed it, something with the hips. So this sway back where the
Mm.
pelvis is out in front, instead of being directly above the ankle, it's out in front of the ankle. Now you've just changed the whole curve of the spine. So your upper back, your shoulders are actually behind the hips, right? They're behind the white line, hips are in front of the white line. And then the head comes forward as well. So it's this whole balancing act. It's like a zigzag where your body's just trying to right itself. It's just trying to find some sort of balance to make up for the problem, which is actually coming from here, hips and the middle of your body. All right, so we got some uh, time for a little test here. So this is where you guys all can participate as you look over this guy. First appointment with what you know now about posture. We're keeping it real simple, but what do you see here that looks off? We've got the red line there showing the middle point from the front, and then this from the side, where the gravity line should be above his ankle. So just put it in the chat or unmute yourself and just tell me one or two things that you see that look off with him.
So if you look at the hips, we see somebody said hips and rounded shoulders,
Yeah, what do you see about the hips? There's a couple things.
neck forward.
Forward, yep. Really far forward. I mean, remember the ear
The
is
ear
focused
should
on the
bisect
line.
that line, right?
Yeah, and his head is barely touching it. So
And as the red line, it should bisect from the center of the feet right up through the navel, the sternum, the chin, and the nose. So is that happening, or is he shifted to one side? Hmm. Do the hands look the same? Are they positioned evenly? Look at the space between the torso and the arms. Is that even right to left?
yeah, there's definitely some differences side to side, right? So what do we see with his hips? So if we say, okay, yeah, his head's forward, he's also not centered, he's off to one side. So let's look farther down at his hips. What's going on there?
Barbara says right hip is hiked.
Yep. Yeah. So we all see that. You can also just kind of look at the crease in his waist is up a little higher on this side compared to this side. Um,
And says his alignment is subtle to the untrained eye, but also dramatically out of whack. So, yeah, even if you weren't looking for certain things, you know there's something off, right? And that's why those lines, and when we take your photos, you see that too. So it's just what's different right to left. And the other thing that I see there as well, and we talk about, is a very narrow stance. That is, if we were to look at his femur to his knee to his ankle, we would see in that posture that his femurs are angled inwards a little bit, which then creates some compensation. That's not as a balanced stance as it could be. So we usually like to have those ankles, knees, and hips stacked. So about 5 inches between your 2 feet. So when you stand up after, take a look. Do you stand with your feet really wide, trying to stabilize yourself, or really narrow? Or are you stacked from ankles, knees, and hips?
Hmm. And asks, why is he falling forward? What prompts
Mm-hmm.
that? Yeah, good question. It's could be a myriad of things. I mean, this is a posture we see a lot where the hips are forward of the line, right? And that kind of just brings everything else with it. So, in a simple sense, you can just think of it as an imbalance between the muscles on the back side of his body and the front side. So we call that dynamic tension, where there's this dynamic, like the front and the backs of your side of your body are always working together to keep you upright. So if the front or the back is overworking or not working enough, it's going to shift you forward or backwards, right? So that's kind of in a simple sense what's causing it. We don't like to typically blame individual muscles, there's because it's all connected and there's a lot of different muscles involved. But if you think of it as just, you're just not balanced in the front and the back, um, yeah. So, and you can think, so imagine now, so since this is him relaxed, he's not trying to stand forward. That's just his body's doing that without even thinking of it, right? So, look at his neck and the position it's in. So, we're talking about neck pain today. Can you see why this posture might, you know, cause some issues up there? Hopefully,
Yeah,
we
you can
can
see
do
the
that.
neck muscles really engaged and tense, which then restricts blood flow and
Mm-hmm.
oxygen to those tissues.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, good news is it's not you're never permanently stuck in any posture. So this is same guy, um, just a matter of weeks, maybe a couple months. I don't remember exactly, but it wasn't very long. Later, after doing his his prescribed routines. But what do we see now? What's different?
Yeah, that's the beauty of the consistent effort over time creates change. Anytime we'll do that today together here, friends. We just do one exercise. It's learning to pay attention to, okay, what's different in my body now? Well, how do I feel different than I did before? Look at even because his hips are more stable. Connie asked the question earlier, is the narrow base adductors tight? That's possible, but often it's because of the pelvic position. So it's learning how to rebalance the muscles. And muscles work in pairs from the glutes to the hip flexors, adductors to the abductors, and so on, front to back, right to left. So is that line now centered from his feet, bisecting the navel, the sternum, the nose on the front profile? Yeah, more even. Look at the arm positions. Look at it. Can we see his thumbs now rather than the knuckles? The vertical alignment from ankle, knee, hip, shoulder. It's actually touching his ear. That's a remarkable change too, having everything pulled back. And these are pictures. These aren't fixed photos. You don't have to, once we do the correct exercises, your muscles are working for you, pulling your posture into that alignment. So we don't have to walk around thinking about our posture all day. I mean, I probably do more than most, but it's just because I work on bodies from morning till evening. But we don't want to have to think about that. We want to enjoy life. So when we do the work, look, your body just naturally realigns.
Yeah, and we'll get to experience this here. We're gonna, in a minute, take everyone through a couple example exercises, and you'll feel different. We're not going to take pictures, but you don't need the visual to be able to feel the difference. You'll actually feel more balanced and straighter. We'll talk about that after just one session, but obviously it takes time, to make the changes more dramatic and to make them longer lasting. But we'll just show a couple other case studies here. This is a much younger client of mine. I believe he was only 16, maybe 17. So pretty unfortunate that we see kids these days with really bad postures already at such a young age. Uh,
Mm.
it's kind of scary. But good news is when you're that young, your body responds really quickly and relatively easily, right? You don't have years and years of compensations to undo. You know, you've got that going for you. But anyway, this guy, um, you can see from the side profiles, very just collapsed forward, everything, the head, the shoulders, the hips. I mean, his knees are even bent. It's just kind of a very sad kind of posture. Um, And then you can see on the bottom after some time, definitely some improvement, right? Much more upright. His shoulders are further back. His head is now closer to the line. It's not perfect, right? But it's in that
But
heading.
those feet are nice. Feet are
Yeah,
straight, even.
yeah. Feet look better. A lot of times we see feet turning out as a way to create some stability, right? If you widen your stance or you turn your feet out, it's more stable, but it's just a compensation or it's trying to make up for something, right? Well, why
Mm-hmm.
the
False stability.
in the first place, you know? Um, so we got some comments here. Elbows are more crooked. Yeah, so his elbows, I don't know, there's maybe slightly more bent. His shoulders are still adjusting, I think. Before they
Mm.
were just fully kind of slumped forward with probably almost no muscle tension up
Yeah,
here.
the body, whenever we change something, there's a reactionary force somewhere else that the body has to adjust, which is why it's consistent effort over time. It takes time to continue changing and adjusting the body. A lot has changed, but then there's still work to be done. We're all a work in progress.
Yeah. And this kid, all his hobbies involved a computer basically, and he was gonna study programming, I think, and was taking some classes. So he spends a lot of time on a computer, which you can see how his posture mimics that, right? So our
Yeah.
bodies will adapt to what we use them for. So
Barbara, I wanted to ask you answer your previous question. Yes, the webinar is recorded and we'll be emailing this out to all of you after so you can review.
oh, great.
Yeah, so let me introduce you to Sharoz, and I have permission to use his photos. If you saw last month's newsletter, we talked about him. This was quite a remarkable story, and I just saw him again this week. So this first photo that you see over here on the left was taken on June 10th, and this is exactly how he stood naturally. So he walked into the Portland clinic holding onto his arm, hunched over with his head like that and his pelvis tucked forward. So when you look at that line on that first photo on the left-hand side, would you say that that white line, which is where he's supposed to be, is lining up with his ankles, knees, hips, shoulders, and ear? Not quite, right? Not even close. So the interesting thing is just after 2 hours of work, look at the second photo right beside that first one. 2 hours of work. Can you see the difference? So when we place that line right at the ankle, the knee is a lot closer. We've got the hips pulled back. Now the shoulder actually touches that line and the head's not so far forward. So Sharoz came in with really serious pain. So we had to be careful with exercises that we chose. Lying on his back was not an option just because of the head position that was putting more pressure. He was diagnosed with two cervical herniated discs and a lot of nerve radiation, which is why he came in holding his arm, a lot of numbness and pain right down into his hand. So that was decreased. Now he reported the last couple of weeks and this week when he came in, zero pain. And now he's back to jujitsu. He's back to his weight training. He's back to doing yoga. This is, in his young 30s kind of guy that just loves being active, wants to enjoy life, wants to travel. But he also is a computer tech. And so he was working constantly with his laptop low at home, bent over all day long. And that combined with his pelvis being tucked back. Now, I'll invite you even to stand up for a moment, or you can just look at me. I'm going to stand up. And if I were just to adjust my pelvic position the way Sharoz's is, we've got what's called an anterior tilt or a forward tilt and a posterior tilt or back. So if I go into a posterior tilt, I'm not going to change my upper back or my neck position right now, but take a look what happens. So I'm going to start to tuck my tailbone under and roll my pelvis into a posterior tilt, which then flattens my lumbar curve. I'm losing my S curve of my spine and I'm getting more of a C shape. So the more I tuck under, can you see how my upper spine is rounding more and more and my head is going forward? Is that visible?
Yep.
I'm not chained. And now my shoulders are rounding and my shoulder blades are protracted and opened. All right. And then it's hard to walk in this kind of position. You try that yourself and try to walk or even raise your arm overhead. It really affects our mobility and our functional ability to do anything well. So we're going to show you one of our exercises we want to share with you today is pelvic because a neutral pelvis, bringing ourselves back. So if you were to do a pelvic tilt sitting or standing, posterior tilt, flattening the lower back, anterior tilt, putting an arch in the lower back, and playing with that. There's a lot of muscles around the pelvis that allow that kind of movement. And if those muscles get locked up because you sit too much, or there's been an injury and we haven't worked through it to regain that symmetry and that muscular balance, we start to lose that natural range of motion. So the pelvic position, when it's in a neutral space, the spine then naturally elongates. We want to restore the S curve again. So if you can put that photo back up, Zach, for a sec, we'll take a look. He lost his S curve of his spine and was more of a C shape in that upper thoracic spine.
Mm.
Just take that back for a sec. Yeah, so you see that. I don't know if you see my mouse here moving, or Zach, just that top part of the spine. Yes, exactly. How rounded that is, how flexed that upper spine is, and how far forward. So you can imagine the amount of pressure that is put on his neck and those cervical vertebrae and intervertebral discs, and also the compression of the nerves, which is why he was getting radiation down his arms. Because anytime we hear somebody say, I've got numbness or tingling in my fingers or my shoulder, my arm, those are the cervical nerves that govern the arms down to the tips of the fingers. So that's a clue that, oh, there's some compression going on there and we need to go easy. So two of the exercises I did with him, one being shoulder rolls, because we don't want to strain the neck, but we want to work from the scapula, which he was able to do, and get the pelvis into a more forward tilt to train the hip flexors again and train the deep gluteal muscles that work in opposition to one another. Look at that second photo on both of the images on the right to left side. His pelvis now is rolled forward because we activated the correct muscles and we got his shoulder blades pulled back, which naturally drew the head back. And you can start to see more of that S curve rather than a big prominent C curve at the top of the spine. And that was just the first session. And he's doing, I've seen him 6 or 7 times now. And he does acupuncture also once a week and some hot cold therapy. And he was doing his menu twice a day, every day for those first 3 weeks. So he was just really motivated to get better. So, yeah, that's a pretty remarkable story I wanted to share with you.
Yeah,
Thanks, Zach.
pretty cool. Thanks. Okay, well, enough talking about other people. Now, why don't we give you all a chance to experience a little bit yourself? So we're going to do a quick self-assessment. So, like I said, we're not going to take pictures of everyone, but we can do the next best thing, which is feeling how balanced your body is. So if everyone can stand up for a minute, um, ideally you don't want to be wearing shoes. So barefoot or socks is great. And I'm just going to shake it out a little bit. So just maybe march in place a few times. Um, Relax. I know we've been talking about posture a lot, so try not to try not to change anything here. But just don't look at your feet. Just plant them wherever you feel is natural for you. And then even close your eyes so you can focus on what you're feeling. Take a deep breath in and out. Just let your arms relax at your sides and just kind of notice now, what are you feeling in the bottoms of your feet? So specifically, where is the pressure? Is it the same on the right and the left, or just compare the two sides? Okay, do they feel the same? If so, great. If not, what's different? Maybe you feel more on the heel, maybe it's front on the ball, might be more collapsed on one side. You feel maybe the inside of your foot more than the outside, or vice versa. So just get a sense of that. There's no right or wrong here. We're just looking for information. But um, anybody care to share what they feel? I know for me, this is my
Sonia
typical
said more pressure on the right heel, Zach.
right heel. Okay. Yeah. So there's some difference there, side to side. Okay. I feel pretty balanced front to back, but just a little more on the inner edge of my left foot. So that tells me, well, I know I tend to have a more pronated left ankle. So anybody else feel anything different side to side, front to back? And
Yes,
Go ahead.
I can you hear me?
yeah,
Yes.
So my left side feels firmly planted. My right side almost feels like it's floating underneath the foot.
yeah.
That's weird.
Mm-hmm. More
Yeah.
weighted.
My knees want to kind of pronate in, and it feels like the weight's more on the heels.
Mm, okay. Yeah, see all different types of bodies here, and but ideally, if everything was doing what it's supposed to, that Function Freddy guy, his weight would be 50-50 right and left sides, and also 50-50 front to back. So heel and then the ball or the pad of your foot, that should be where most of the pressure is. Pretty evenly spread from the inside, like big toe side to pinky toe side. So anything that's different than that just tells us, okay, it just means your body's in a different position, right? We're going to go through a few exercises and check it again and see what you feel. Now, caveat, of course, these are just generic exercises as an example. This isn't medical advice. It's not meant to replace, your own personalized routine, but these are all things that can help shift your posture in a better way and help if you are dealing with neck pain. But if anything hurts, stop and just let us know. We can offer some alternatives, but I just wanted to throw that out there. So I'll guess I'll be Laura, you want to be the therapist and walk me through how to do the standing at the wall?
Sure, go ahead.
So
So Zach is going to use a wall space. And if any of you have a wall that you could go up against, I love using the wall and the floor because it really gives us some tactile feedback. We feel it through our skin receptors, what straight is. So Zach is going to back up against the back of his door. And I'm going to invite you to have your feet about 5 inches apart. Do you want to use the block for this one between the knees? We can. If you don't have a block, a pillow, folded up cushion from your couch, a small half deflated Pilates ball sometimes works well for that too. So Zach has his feet about 5-6 inches apart. So his ankles, knees, and hips are in line. He's placed that pillow just between his knees. And Zach, you should feel that both heels are up against the wall. So if you're doing this with us, make sure that your heels are touching and then maybe your calves are touching. So check in to see if one is touching more than the other. How about your glutes? Is your bum touching the wall evenly right to left? Your lower back will be arched a little bit because it's pulling your pelvis into more of a forward tilt or a neutral position. How about the shoulder blades? Do you feel that the shoulder blades are touching the walls evenly? And are your arms hanging along the side of your body naturally? The head may or may not touch the wall. Don't force that if it doesn't touch. If it does, fine. It's going to depend on what's happening below. So there's a slight pressure if you are holding the cushion. There's just a gentle pressure, let's say 20%, 30% effort of just hugging that to engage the muscles of the legs and the hips. You can tighten up your thigh muscles. So feel like you're pulling your quadriceps up away from your knees. And just notice if you have balance, even weight on both sides. Your belly is relaxed. Even weight on those legs. And we stay there.
does anyone have a hard time getting their head to the wall here? Probably.
We're having a couple yeses.
Yeah, so don't force it. So if you notice your chin is up like this, like if you're looking up at the ceiling, then just better to keep your head forward a little bit until you can, keep your neck more level with the horizon. But ideally, that head should touch the wall. But again, we don't want to force it. Just do what your body's capable of for now. But yeah, you might feel like some work here. It looks simple to just stand there, but it's actually requiring some work, right?
I'll never forget after I practiced this one for a while and I was just standing in the space here working, and it was almost as though I felt the wall behind my back because I had done it so much that my brain had registered that feeling of what straight felt like. And it was kind of a fun moment to say, oh, well, look at that. My body, that's how our brain operates. How just through the skin receptors and the activation of these muscles, it's retraining us to hold that position even when we're not at the wall. Good job, Zach.
Thanks.
Any comments on that, everybody?
So you can hold that for as long as you want, really. I mean, we'll just do a minute or two today, but you want to hold it at least for a minute or a couple minutes to give your body a chance to adjust and get used to that position.
Question about that. I've got the Egoscue block. Am I holding it more on my thighs or between my knees? And also, should my head be touching the wall?
Yeah, you want the block just right between the knees. So, centered on the block there and on the narrow side, the skinniest side. And then your head should touch the wall, but only if it's comfortable, right? So if you feel like you have to force it and you feel like a lot of tension in your neck trying to hold it against the wall, we don't really want to do that. So just let it come off the wall a little bit if that's the case. But otherwise, you can hold it there comfortably. Great. If not, don't force it. Okay. So we're going to
And
do,
just popped a question in there, Zach.
oh, shoulder blades touch the wall. Are my shoulders supposed to also? Not necessarily for that one. As long as your shoulder blades are touching, you want your shoulders themselves to be relaxed. You could push them back and touch the wall. But that's kind of a different exercise. We're not working on that yet. We just want to stand there, let your arms hang at your side, let your neck relax. That's the most important thing.
Did anybody notice anything different right to left? For example, the calf not touching on one side but the other, or one butt cheek that had a trouble staying on the wall, or the shoulder blades that weren't as even. Those are some really interesting signals of how your body might be rotating, and the wall and the floor work can derotate the body.
Right. The next thing we're going to do is also standing. We don't need a wall necessarily for this, so Laura can demonstrate. We're
Yep.
just going to stand, and for any standing exercise, we always want to start by looking at your feet. Just make sure they're pointed straight, meaning the middle of your foot is straight. So don't get distracted by your big toes. They might so middle of the feet pointed straight, 5 to 6 inches between them. Arms at your side, and we're going to do a shoulder roll. So maybe if you can turn to the side, Laura, and show them. We'll start with backwards rolls. So your shoulders are going to go up, back, down, and then forward. Up, back. So just circling in that direction, as big as you can make them, basically. Try not to lift with your arms, so you're not bending your elbows. Keep the arms relaxed. Just focus on those shoulder blade muscles. We'll do about 10. Arms stay at your side. Don't forget to breathe. Good. A couple more. This is a great one. I mean, all these are great to do, but if you are working at a computer or you feel like you've been sitting too much, nothing better you can do than stand up, give your body a little posture reset, get those shoulders moving again instead of being stuck in a frozen position. All right, so that's about 10. Now we're going to reverse it. So go the other way. So back, up, forward, down, circling the other way. Getting all those muscles in the shoulder blade that run up into your neck, even below the shoulders, working. Good.
I like the reminder too, keeping the jaw and the face relaxed so we're not clenching the jaw. But, I'm starting to, we want to work from the shoulder blades as much as possible. And if it's too intense for the upper trapezius muscles, because that does get in there a little bit, then just go a little bit easier, smaller circles. You can build up to it. So you don't want it to be trap dominant. We want to try to get all these little muscles around the shoulder blade and the mid back to do the work.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll just do one set for the sake of time, but you could do that, 2 or 3 times each way. Now we're going to finish with something to really get our hips working a little better. So, Laura, you want to demonstrate this one as well?
So we can either use a yoga block, or if you have the Egoscue pillow, either of these work fine. Or a bed cushion or a couch cushion that you can fold in half. These are going to be sitting at knee pillow squeezes. That's what we're doing, right, Zach?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me just scoot back a little bit so we can see your knees and feet. All right, so you can sit in a normal chair. A chair works just fine. But if you're in a chair, you just scoot forward a little bit so you're not touching the backrest. And so looking again at your feet, pointed straight ahead, right underneath your knees. And then if you start, I like to start by just sitting relaxed, like let yourself slouch a little bit and feel how your pelvis is now tipped backwards, right? So you're in kind of that C shape. So we want to get out of that C and turn it into an S by rolling the pelvis forward. So think about pulling your belly button towards your knees. So just do that a couple times, roll it back and then forward. So notice Laura, she's not lifting from her chest or sternum and shoulders. It's all coming from the pelvis. And naturally, when you roll it forward, your upper body will straighten out, but it's not you shouldn't be feeling like you're working up there. It should feel like working your hips, low back. Okay, so let's roll it forward one more time and hold it there. So now you can see the nice curve in her back. And now arms can just rest at your side or in your lap is fine. And we're going to squeeze that block or that pillow between your knees and then release it. Well, don't drop it on the floor, but squeeze for a second, relax for a second, just pushing your knees together. So you should feel your inner thighs here, kind of from the groin running down to the knees. So on and off, about 1 second squeeze, 1 second release. Check in on your stomach, make sure that it's relaxed so you're not trying to suck in your gut and brace your core. Belly should actually be soft here.
That's switching on my left hip flexor too.
Good. Yeah, well, hopefully we'll do enough reps so that you feel like both sides should be working, or at least should feel more symmetrical.
Yeah.
So do a few more of these. If your back starts to get tired, you can take a little break, let yourself slouch a little bit again, shake it out, and then go back into it. For some of you, it may feel challenging just to sit like that with the proper tilt in your pelvis, but that's, sometimes people ask us, well, what's the ideal sitting posture? How should I sit? And this is a pretty good example of that. You're not going to be able to sit like that all day without any support, right? It takes a lot of work to sit with a proper spine position. But if you have a good chair or a little bolster behind your back, that can help when you need a little break.
I do this sometimes, Zach, put the cushion there and I just will be at my desk just supporting the hips. It's interesting because I know my right side is stronger than my left. So when that left started really engaging, now it's balancing out. But there's a moment when I do a lot of these exercises that little cramps or little signals will come into my body. And I just kind of smile. I think one of our colleagues says that the cramping is just the muscles resistant to change. So we're switching on muscles that might not have been working as effectively.
Yeah.
May I ask if the yoga block is wide or narrow between your legs?
I have the narrow. We can either, depending on your hip width, could be the narrow or it could be that second width.
Wide.
Yeah, it could be one or either. The Egoscue block is a little bit wider, so that would probably correspond to that second level of the yoga block. Great question.
Okay. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Let's go ahead and take a break now and stand up again. So shake it out. We'll do a little reassessment now. So go back to just standing normal, relaxed, eyes closed if you want to focus a little easier. And breathe and check in with your feet. So after just doing a few things which didn't really do anything with our feet, right? It was kind of shoulder blade and hips. But what do we feel in our feet now? I know I was feeling more collapsed on my left side, but don't really feel that as
A
much.
lot more even.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. I was more heavy in my right. Now I'm more even.
And what about you?
Feel straighter.
I'm curious how Anne feels because she felt like she was floating off one foot. Did that change? Oh, you're muted. Can you unmute yourself? Yeah. Maybe.
There we go. My right side is much more solid. That was the floating side. It's not completely grounded, but the left side is yet more solid. The whole foot feels like it's right on the ground.
Oh, good.
So, and with the right one, more of the foot.
Yeah.
So 3 sets of 20 of those for you, and then 3 sets of 10 of those shoulder rolls forward and back.
Thank you. I promise for a whole week minimum every day.
Yeah.
Try it. It's just always fun to see how the body shifts and changes.
Yeah.
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 Good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I was feeling weight on the outside of my of both feet,
Yeah.
and now they feel like the whole foot is feeling the floor.
Great.
Yeah,
That's good.
interesting.
Yeah. Crazy how
Can I just let me share something quickly with you, friends? I know that we're coming close to the end of our time, but in Pete's book, Pain Free, is just one little paragraph here. Since the neck doesn't have much counterbalancing flexibility, so we talked about that bowling ball, and the head is heavy on the end of that line, that he uses that analogy. The neck has little choice but to obey the hips. This is what we've been talking about. The forward flexion of the body, so that upper spine rounding that we saw in those photos, which starts primarily in the hips because we sit so much, reverses the cervical curve from convex to concave. This shift brings the head out of vertical alignment where it was dynamically linked to and supported by the shoulders, hips, knees, and ankles. The spine goes from solid pedestal to flexible fishing pole, whose tip pulled down by a wriggling 10-pound minnow, hence your head. The cervical vertebrae riding on their disc shock absorbers are brought forward to the limit of their flexion capacity, and they stay there. The discs, meanwhile, are under great stress. The muscles of the neck and upper back have locked up from the strain of holding the head's extra weight. Lateral and rotational movements can't take place smoothly or even at all when we're in that position. The conditions are in place for a stiff neck, neck pain, and damage to the cervical discs. So that's out of his neck chapter in the Pain Free book. So we just wanted to share some of Pete's words directly from there.
May I ask
Barbara.
you a question? I saw that I was just looking the books up and I know about Pain Free, but I also saw one Pain Free for Women.
Mm-hmm.
What is the difference in the two books?
Zach, do you know? I haven't read The Pain Free for Women. I have 3 or 4 of his books, but I don't have that one.
Oh, really? It's great. Yeah, I think it's good, not just for women. I mean, I've learned some stuff from there too. But basically, I mean, I would say Pain Free, just the original Pain Free, is probably better if you're dealing with some kind of either acute or chronic pain, because it's just easy to go to the chapter for your neck or your back or your whatever and do the exercises. Pain Free for Women covers a lot more like broader topics about health in general. And it's really good. He covers all like different stages of life, from childhood to pregnancy to postpartum to menopause to, you know, all that. So, and there's exercise recommendations for all that, but it's a little less geared towards, you know, just, I just want to get pain quickly. Yeah.
Thank you.
I definitely recommend it as a good resource. Yeah.
Great question.
So, great. Well, we just got one more thing to share here, and then we'll have some time hopefully for some more questions. But share my screen again. Okay, so next steps. Hopefully you all learned something today and are understand your pain a little bit better. But speaking of pain free, if you're still got questions or just maybe brand new to this and a little skeptical, that's totally fine. You know, it's definitely challenging maybe the way you think about things a little bit. So no better place to learn about it than from the mouth of the founder himself. So Pain Free, you can look it up. Just Google Pain Free or go on Amazon. You'll see the books there. There's a second edition now. It's got kind of the yellow and white cover. But
yeah, I can grab it.
Yeah, the original is great too, but the new one's a little more updated.
This one here.
Yeah. So you can read that, and there's a chapter specifically for necks, which would be applicable to most of us, it sounds like. But you know, the exercises in the book are just generic, right? Book's not going to help you as much as a real person can, right? But it is helpful, and thousands, if not millions, of people have benefited from it. It's been around as a pretty top seller since the early 90s. So the second option, of course, is if you want some more one-on-one help and you're feeling like, oh, this makes sense. You know, I felt some interesting changes in my body just doing those exercises, but not quite sure if it can really help me with my unique situation, right? So we're happy to chat with you one-on-one, do a little posture evaluation. We can take your pictures. We can do it on Zoom, by the way. You don't even have to come into the clinic. We can look at your pictures together and see what's going on and help answer your questions. And that won't cost you anything. It's just some time, 20, 30 minutes. So please schedule that with us if you're interested. And then of course, the third step is if you are ready to actually make some changes and you're ready to do the work to feel better and begin your transformation. We are happy to work with you one-on-one, and we'll talk briefly about what that looks like, but this is kind of how we package things. And we're offering a 10% discount for all of you for joining us. But But so 8 or 16 sessions, that's typically how we break it down. We're typically meeting once a week, at least in the beginning stages as your body is, you're in pain. We want to make sure you're doing the exercises correctly. And we'll make changes as your body changes, so as your posture changes, the exercise needs will also be different, right? So what's difficult in the beginning is not going to be difficult after 1, 2, or 3 weeks, right? So we're constantly reassessing, making sure you're doing things correctly too, because the exercises are simple, but yet there's a lot of room for error, and we just want to make sure you're getting the most out of them, right? And so eventually, right, we don't want you coming to us forever, but we want to teach you all the things you need to know to not only get out of pain right now, but then have a sort of a maintenance routine to keep doing for the rest of your life. And you may come back in, clients will come back in here and there. I always recommend making some sort of regular visit just to make sure you're still staying on track, you're keeping up with your exercises, and as your body changes or maybe something new pops up, you want to catch it before it becomes chronic, right? Yeah, so if you first appointment, by the way, usually takes about an hour and a half, because we'll go through the full assessment of your posture, your gait, some basic movement tests, and then go through the exercises with you. So that's kind of what's included. And it can be done on Zoom as well. So the price is the same whether you come into the clinic or if you don't live close by, you can work with us on Zoom, and that works really well. So anyway, what questions do we have about that, or anything else that we didn't cover yet in the videos? Now's the chance to ask.
So I would like to, am I interrupting somebody?
Go ahead, Ann. You're good.
Okay. I'd like to ask about my chair. It has, it's mesh. It was designed so it goes like this since my hips are up a little bit. It doesn't exactly feel that comfortable to me. Can that cause problems?
So are you saying it kind of sinks in the middle, and so?
Yes, and it's the design. It's not that it's old or anything.
I don't know. You say it's not comfortable. Does it feel, what's not comfortable about it? Like it puts pressure on your back or what?
Actually, I'm sitting up right now, feet on the ground, noticing that there's tightness in my lower neck and upper back, just like for, a length of maybe 5 inches.
Do you feel that both sit bones are connected to the chair evenly, Ann? If you roll your pelvis, that little pelvic tilt we did earlier, if you roll the pelvis forward, do you feel stable, or do you feel like you're kind of sinking in as it feels supported?
Well, I don't know how to answer that except to say that my right side hurts.
Have you tested other chairs to see if it hurts when you sit in another chair? I know I've done that before because I had a wobble stool that I loved, but if I sit in it too long, my lower back and mid back are not happy after an hour.
Well, yes, and I went shopping for office chairs the other day, but I don't have an opportunity to try them out for hours at a time, without buying them one at a time.
Right. Our colleague Brian would often say that it's the body we're taking into that. He has an expression, train for the sport of sitting. So it's how do we train our bodies to be symmetrical, to be more balanced, so that wherever we're sitting and we're going to feel okay. And I think that's where practicing those exercises that we shared today, I'd be really curious to see if you practice those every day and retest yourself in that chair and see if that right hip still talks to you. Now, you mentioned before that you felt more weighted, I think, on that right side when you were standing, correct?
Less weighted.
Less weighted on the right. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
and that's the side that I have this hip laxity in.
So I'm wondering if you're moving away from that side, overworking the other side, and there's some hip imbalance there, and that those muscles are just kind of working overtime when you're putting it into a sitting position. So there's something going on within the hips there for sure.
Yeah. Okay. I will be experimenting and paying attention.
Yeah,
you.
that it all starts with the awareness. We can't change what we're not aware of. So that's excellent. Now that you've pinpointed that, take some journal notes before and after exercise.
Okay.
How long you can sit before that starts happening. How are you sitting? All those kind of things are really helpful for us to decode what's going on.
Yeah, good idea. I will do so.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, short answer is I would say it's probably not the chair, but the body you're bringing to the chair, right? If your
Okay.
body is more balanced, you should be able to tolerate just about anything. I've got like pretty much the cheapest chairs I could find here in the office, and so, it's if your body's in good alignment, it can sit on most things no problem. Not to
Yeah.
say there's not
Okay.
such thing as a bad chair, but
Sure.
rather than blaming the chair, let's try and straighten out the body a little bit, and then you might find, hey, the chair feels fine now. So
Okay.
I feel
Okay.
really, I'm just sitting
Good
on the
point.
large Egoscue block, and that's what I sit on my computer, and I feel really good about it because I can put my block between my knees and change my position, sit cross-legged. I'm always sitting in different positions, so
yeah,
it
that's
keeps my hips
actually
happier.
a good thing to bring up. I was going to say, if you start to get uncomfortable when you sit, honestly, that's just a good signal from your body that you should
Right.
get up.
Get up.
Right.
Get up and move.
So,
Posture interrupt time.
yeah, it's like that little check engine light coming on. Okay, something needs to change, right? So,
Yeah, I infuse. Just we always say choose one non-negotiable exercise. Many of you here have menus already that you've done, and it's one thing being consistent, but it's infusing just that one non-negotiable that is your daily go-to, whether that's what we showed today or arm circles, or I love the slant board or an air bench, many that we've showed in the past. Choose your one and do that a few times during the day. I'll do an air bench every couple of hours if I start to feel my lower back because I'm standing over people all day, then oops, air bench is kind of my go-to. Or at the end of the day, it's my legs up the wall, so that just when you feel the signals in your body, you can reset that before it gets worse.
How long do you do your air bench?
Anywhere between a minute and 2 minutes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Perfect.
Any other questions, friends? We're so appreciative of your participation today. Thank you for being here and taking the time out of your schedule.
Yeah, please reach out if you want to, have a free consult, or if you want to book a session, just let us know.
Thank you. All right. Well, we're going to sign off. Thanks so much for your participation. Zach will be sending out the email with the video link. So if you want to review anything or if you have questions, you can reach out to either of us. We'd be happy to guide you.
Thank you so much for your
Thank
time
you
and
so
offering
much.
these. It really helps.
This is
Great.
fantastic. What a gift. Thank you so much.
We
All
appreciate
right.
your feedback. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.